also an advocacy intern. Susan McRoy, who is a vendor and a signature gatherer for the I-135 campaign, and Crystal Hayes, who is a vendor and signature gatherer as well. My name is Camilla Walter. I'm the executive director of Real Change. Real Change is hosting this project. The Initiative 135 House Our Neighbors campaign is a project of Real Change, but Real Change does so much more than that. We have three main arms to our local nonprofit: the advocacy department, which works to end poverty, to combat poverty in our region. Through systems change, we run a vendor program in the neighborhood of Pioneer Square that offers low barrier work opportunity and services to folks experiencing homelessness and poverty. And we publish a weekly award-winning newspaper. If you want to learn more about Real Change or support our work, you can visit realchangenews.org. So before we jump into the questions that I have for our panelists, some Real Change vendors have submitted some questions about the Initiative 135. One vendor asks, so what is the plan? What is I-135? This is a ballot initiative that would create a public development authority, which would be similar to the Pike Market or the monorail. It would be tasked with creating social housing. So that would mean independent, publicly funded, community-led housing, and build truly affordable housing at a scale that we need. So the next steps after we develop the Public Development Authority would be to acquire housing and create new social housing with cross-class renters that is led by tenants. Another vendor submitted the question, who is the housing for? And our answer is practically anyone. There would be no minimum income restrictions, and it would be open and available to anyone making anywhere from 0 to 120% of the median area income. So those are just a couple of the questions that we got from vendors. And now I'm going to turn it to this incredible panel that we have. And I just want to start with a question for each of you, which is, how did you get involved with this work? And what has your role been so far? Daryl, I'd like to start with you on Zoom.
Yes, can you hear me good?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I got started in this, I've been a Real Change vendor, if you want me to talk about like from that angle, or like a perspective, back in 2017, April 2017. And then like when I started selling the paper, of course I needed income at the time, but then I saw the mission, I saw the value that it brought to the community, not just in the customers, and also like the volunteers and the people like Camilla, who's doing a great job, by the way, and all the staff at the Real Change office. But I saw value in it. I saw warmth. I saw a sense of community. I saw a sense of giving a damn, you know, for lack of a better word or phrase. But also, as far as social housing, I'm gonna fast forward a little bit. I'm not gonna take up much of everybody's time. The value of it is, we're at a point in time now to where Section 8 and that whole process is outdated. Okay, the time and the culture and the times that we're living in right now, it needs to be something else. Housing as we know it needs to be reimagined, to put it kindly. You know, the current system or model is not working. I think social housing and the initiative, the initiative sign I-35, like when I first found out about it, I think it's great. I think it's going to work. I think it's not only a solution. I think it's not only going to put a dent in the housing situation. I mean, it's going to resolve a lot of people's issues, you know. And I appreciate Camilla, hey, you know, the host, you know, for clarifying, you know, what the mission is and everything. So I definitely see value in it. I hope it's on the ballot. I believe it's going to be on the ballot, hey, in November. I think it's something that definitely can and will work.
Great, thank you for sharing, Daryl. Carl, how about you? What was your role in House Our Neighbors, and how did you first get started in this work?
I started because I was already in an internship, you know, and also I like the idea, and our city's rent is too high. We need to do something like more affordable housing. And I really like the idea, so especially I'm in an advocacy group. So started.
Okay, thank you, Carl. Susan, how about you?
Okay, well, I started getting involved with this initiative because I wanted to become more active in the community. And I have a personal belief that housing should not be for profit. And I think that that is the problems in our housing will always be issued with if we are still considering it being for profit. I think that if we can start opening up these new initiatives and new ideas where it's not for profit, I think that it'll stabilize our community as a whole.
Great, yeah, thank you.
I agree.
Crystal, how did you first get started in this work and what has your role been?
I'm a signature gatherer. So how did I first get started? I'm a signature gatherer. I've done it for years. And also, you know, it's housing. And housing is important. So I said I'd get signatures because I know how to do it. Housing is important. And this initiative is very important. You know, the initiative reminds me, and I've said this to other people, about how we got our house. The state rented houses for low rent, 30% of your income. And then when the program ended, they sold the houses. Now, and they sold the houses very cheaply. So my mother was able to buy the house for $30,000. And so was everybody else who rented a house from the state, was able to get their houses for $30,000. The house is now worth a ridiculous amount of money. Where it's at, worth a ridiculous amount of money. You know, and it's a good house. So, you know, like Daryl said, Section 8 is outdated. You have to make only a certain amount of money. The city needs to do something. And the city honestly does not really care about housing and homelessness. They're forced to, but they really don't. So the city, so we need to do something. And this is a very good idea. It's a very good idea. A lot of people, those who can't get housing because they make too much, $1 too much, $2 too much, will now be able to get something that they can afford. They can afford to live in Seattle instead of paying, you know, outrageous amounts of rent people are paying. You know, $3,500 is a ridiculous amount to rent an apartment, but that's what some of these apartments are going for. Some of the new apartments. Yeah. You go to some other part of the state, that's house payments, that's car payments, that's every payment they have, and then some left over. So, you know, it's important that we do housing. It's important that we get all the signatures that are needed and that it gets on the ballot. It's very important. You know, it's very important.
Thank you for sharing that, Crystal. Yeah. I think that is a really great segue into my next question for everyone, which is about what needs to change in terms of housing policy in Seattle. What needs to change in order for Seattle to become affordable? Earl, you wanna take this?
Yes. Oh, yes. A lot needs to change. One of the things that needs to change, moving forward, now that we're in this conversation, things can't change without social housing and the Sign I-35 initiative. That has to be part of the solution. I don't care what anybody has to say. That being said, what really needs to change is we got to change criteria. The credit report, correct me if I'm wrong, anybody, was created during redlining back in the 50s and 60s, and people are still using that racist system. There's nothing fair about Isaac. If anybody can find anything fair about Isaac, let me know. Okay? There's nothing fair about Isaac. It's very discriminatory. And I thought fair housing was supposed to be taking care of that. So that criteria needs to be trashed. Two, housing needs to be a human right. Social housing, Initiative I-35 is definitely a huge step in that direction. Anybody that needs to make money off people like this, as far as people paying rent, you're a slave owner. You're a modern day slave owner in a lot of ways. From a monetary standpoint of view, housing should be a human right. And to say that housing as we know it needs to be reimagined is an understatement. Okay, the current system needs to be trashed. Okay, look at all the people that are homeless now. And I said this back at City Hall back in 2015 or 16 when I went there. If you go back to when I was talking to Sharma Sawant and the crew, I told her like she could sit this one out because she got the memo. I was talking to everybody else. I said, if this homeless situation, I said it back then, doesn't get addressed now, it's going to sweep over into Eastern Washington and the suburbs, and look at where it is. You know, so as far as the housing situation, the credit report needs to be taken away. Initiative sign I-35 needs to be a huge part of the solution. Okay, and three, we got to give people good quality housing, not just a room or boarding room. Shelter ain't it. Tiny homes are okay if people really want to go there and stay there. Okay, fine. But my thing is this: as far as housing, I think it should be at least a one-bedroom or studio, if not more, for somebody. Good quality housing, good quality water, safe place to live. Okay, that needs to be given to people, dude. I mean, if you're a human being or a citizen of the U.S. or a human being, period, housing should be a human right. It should be it should be like breathing. People to sit and make money off it, and we sit up advertising. People are sitting up advertising, talking about the housing market and comparing prices. That is a mockery and an insult to all of our intelligence. I have more to say about it, but I'm not going to take up all the time. Yeah, but I hope I answered your question.
Absolutely, yeah. Housing is a right. Thank you, Daryl, for sharing. Carl, how would you answer that question about what needs to change in terms of housing policy in Seattle, or how can we change Seattle to make it more affordable and livable?
Just like everybody say, we need a rent control is one. And also, you know, they try to sometimes like ask a private developer to make some room for the, you know, affordable, you know, housing, and this number-wise not maybe enough, and also their help is only temporary. I mean, you know, it's eventually they're going back to the private. I think, you know, most of, and I think the city, you can't rely. I don't think you can rely on you know, public, you know, private developers. So the city should, you know, they have resources. I mean, they have their own some property, building. You know, they should create housing for the people in Seattle, and you have just like this social housing. You get more, then eventually drive the, you know, market price down. I hope, and so somehow, yeah, just I think city can create more. I believe affordable housing if they really want. Also, and maybe change the way of the housing instead, you know, maybe I don't know how to explain, but we also had a lot of homeless people in the city, and they need a place to, and but they just do a sweep, and you know, I don't think that's gonna solve the problem. You know, they need some place to go, even outside, and So, you know, city should open up, if they don't want to do it, it should open up the resources for, you know, people to do it. Yeah. I think city have to do something. And I think they can do that. Actually, they should get more. That's okay, anyway.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right. The city has to do something. And I think one of the things you're talking about is, yeah, opening up resources to build housing and not for sweeping people out of the way, and not just for private developers to open up 1 or 2 units that then fall back to market rate. Yeah. No, thank you. Thank you very much for sharing that, Carl. Susan, how about you? Yeah, same question.
What I think Seattle needs is Initiative 135, because first of all, Initiative 135 has been in other, social housing has been in other countries. So it's not somebody's pipe dream that's being thought of in Seattle. It's in other countries around the world. Specifically, Vienna, Austria has 60% of their housing is already social housing. Also, I think Seattle needs Initiative 135 because of eviction prevention. We have streamlined people becoming homeless, not for mental illness, but because of evictions. And that's one simple way to prevent a lot of homelessness occurring, is to protect people from being evicted. And thirdly, I think that Initiative 135 is good for Seattle because the example, if the vendors, Real Change vendors were to be selected for social housing, I think that vendors have a great way of developing their people skills. And I think the chemistry of Real Change vendors living with higher income people would make a great chemistry. So I think the Initiative 135 needs to be put in place in Seattle.
That's very powerful. Yeah, it's so interesting to look at the models of other cities and see where we're
it's
so
being
far
done.
behind.
It's being done,
and it's proven. Exactly.
Yeah, it's not something that is an experiment or a dream. It's being put in place around the world, and Seattle can step up to the plate and say that we don't need to be victims to gentrification. We can do something where we have stability in our community. And also Initiative 135 helps create a community by making the rent comfortable for the renters, with ideas that if you lose your job, your rent goes to 0, you don't get evicted. Also, when the people from higher incomes come in, their rent stays the same, so that it encourages the renters to not move away. And if people are actually living in places for 10 or 15 years, it helps businesses, it helps neighborhoods in general. And so we could have social housing in many different neighborhoods throughout Seattle.
That's fantastic. So yeah, Crystal, same question about making Seattle affordable, housing policy here.
Well, you gotta change attitudes. And that's a hard thing for a lot of people to do. You know, 135 is a good stuff. It's a good way to go. Citizens of Seattle need to do something. We need to do something. And it's simple, like, we do need to bring control, but we need to demand it. Instead of saying, instead of having to say, no, you can't go on a rent strike because it's against the law. Who the fuck are you to tell me what I can't do? It's against the law? No. That doesn't make sense to me. So, I think, if that's one thing we could do, the citizens of Seattle, those of us who can afford not to pay rent, don't pay. Those who are not going to be penalized, or who can afford the penalty, don't pay your rent for a month or 2 or 3, and see how the management likes it, the owners like it. Pay it up before you get it, and know pay it up before the 3 months, or so you won't get it. Make sure you pay it up before then, and that's one thing. And then we could just, as I said, why don't we just demand that we're not going to pay the high prices? We can slowly turn the clock back a little bit. That's something I've always thought about. How do we turn the clock back to where why is it getting so much more expensive? It's the same house. I said the house is $30,000. Why is it almost $1 million now? Yeah, that's what I figured on that. So, right? It's stuff like that. So it's like this house it's been paid for. It's not worth the $1 million. So why and, I live in community roots, so that's kind of social. It does work. We all know each other in the building. Nobody goes out and messes with my junk in the back where I'm gardening. And nobody takes the food from my front door, where I wish they would. Some of my vegetables, please take some of them. And nobody, and nobody bothers anything. So you have a nice sense of community. My door is open right now, but I have screen doors, I lock it. So, and it stays open, during the summer, it just stays open. That's a good thing.
Yeah,
that's a good thing. And people don't understand. So no, that's a good thing because most of us have been here. Half of us have been here for a minute. And the other half, people come and go. It's a good thing, So Initiative 135, it's a way to go. And if it gets on the ballot, if it gets passed, and hopefully it gets everything that it's needed, then we're going to see some changes in Seattle. I don't know how many houses they're going to buy, or what they're going to do, or what they're going to build, but it's a start, And, this is changing attitudes. Some people reach out to change your attitude about housing, change your attitude. Have management change your attitudes because I just it's ridiculous and I know the taxes aren't gone up that much.
Yeah.
It's just we need to change our attitudes desperately. We are a privileged city. We are a spoiled city. And I know that many of us who grew up here don't realize the privileges and what we have. We just don't realize what we have. And so, if we took some privileges away, maybe that would wake us up a little bit. But people come here because for health reasons, because they want to get seen at the doctor when they go to emergency room instead of sitting there for 3 years. Mm-hmm. People used to come here because of the bus system. They don't come here. It just not working like it used to work. So, that kind of needs to change. Those attitudes.
That was really powerful. So yeah, Crystal says, change your attitudes. A lot follows that, for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. So my next question is, is really going back to this idea of housing in general. We talk a lot about housing. What do we really mean by that? I really want to hear from each of you. What do you need and want in a place that is yours? Daryl, let's start with you.
You're asking what do I need and want in a place is mine? Circumstantially speaking, I think that to piggyback from your previous question, and it actually be relative to now, federal government has money. Okay, I think that under the time and climate that we're in right now, renters and even people who pay a mortgage shouldn't be allowed to pay rent or a mortgage right now until everything calms down as far as the economy. And everybody should have like their rent and mortgages taken care of, especially with these gas prices that are going in, even though they dropped a little bit. But what I do want in a place is a place that's not only clean and safe, but also, you know, a place that's positive, a place that's conducive. I'm big on being positive and harmonious, peaceful, you know, loving, you know. That's what I would want. You know, what I would need is the same as my want in these, I mean, under the circumstance to where, you know, I want a place, you know, where everybody, there's no racism, regardless of whether you're Black, white, Hispanic, Latino, Mexican, you know, Russian, Asian, etc. There's no racism at all. You know, we're all treating each other equitably and fairly and justly and safely. You know, it's like a community, but yet nobody's getting into anybody's business. You know what I mean? But yet we're aware of things, you know? So that's what I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely. Thank you, Daryl. So Carl, a place that is yours, what do you need it to look like, to feel like? What do you want out of it?
Okay, I don't need much. I just place to lay my body, safety, and but I don't have to own it. But nice to have a garden. I can plant something. Even if it's apartment or something, or maybe library or something. But I don't have to own it. Any book or anything. But yeah, I don't really just and I don't mind share a toilet or shower or just take place to sleep. Just so I don't know, maybe not right person to question.
No, it means something different to all of us, and safety, a safe place to sleep, that's really important. And a dream of a garden is really lovely too. Anything else you want to add to that?
For the people who has car, maybe free parking.
Yeah.
I don't drive, but and yeah, maybe not be. And maybe kitchen, maybe even share kitchen or whatever. I don't cook much, I just heat it up stuff. But
Definitely.
yeah.
I guess that's one of the perks of social housing, right? Some people cook, some people don't. Yeah. So Susan,
Yeah.
What's your answer to this question? So deeply personal. Yeah.
Well, again, the social housing model was very attractive to me because I had not heard of multi-income before, and I really grabbed hold of that because I believe that in a community you learn from each other, and just as much as low income would learn from upper income would also learn from lower income. And so to me, the social housing initiative or the plan is attractive to me for the multiple income. And then also, I had asked while I was canvassing about rules and how do they manage the social housing. And I am positive about having no classism, racism, or sexism. And I really was attracted to the idea that the tenants were running the social housing and that each income level was representative on the board or on the committee. I'm not sure how you explain what it's called, but the representation, each income level would be represented. So my heart is with the social housing. I hope that it can be built. And also from canvassing, I learned that once the profits start coming in, that the profit will be to build more social housing. And I think that that is such a positive idea that it can grow, that it's something that's going to grow in the community.
Oh, absolutely. That's beautiful. Crystal, how about you? A place that is yours?
Well, physically, you know, you want the roof over your head, so I have that. I don't have the fireplace, but that's okay. But you know, for me, it's just a place where you can be yourself. You know, I live on the hill. I live on Capitol Hill. And it's very important to be yourself. You know, I don't care what people do. I don't care if somebody you don't mess with children or old people. You know, somebody who can't buy them. But just a place to be free. If you don't, you know, if you're someplace where you've been hiding or just not allowed to just be yourself. And that is important to me. You know, I accept you as you kind of, I don't care who you are, what you do. And a lot of people look at me kind of funny because I'm, you know, some people know who know. Because I don't care. I don't care. You know, I have a friend, oh my God, his daddy messed with him when he was a kid. He comes up to me, and I'm looking, oh my goodness, baby, and he's dressed like his mother or his grandmother. Right, he's got his hair done up, and he's got his legs. He's made his legs bigger than his skinny little calves, right? And people look at him like, huh? And I'm like, okay, what's up? How you doing? You know, because it's important to accept him for who he is and whatever. You know, he's kind of going off a little mentally gone, but you know, I don't care. That's what is important. To have the safety of a roof. I'm a woman. I need a roof over my head. I want it to be dry. I want it to be clean. I do need my cooking area.
Yeah.
And a place to bathe. But it could be that could all be just a room. So long as I have my cooking area and a place to bathe, my toilet could be on the outside though, in a warm spot. But that's what's important, you know, just the ability just to be yourself, because around the world you see so much of that, and not in this around everywhere. That is not allowed to happen. Yeah. And so just the comfort and the security that you when you come into my home, I don't care. Shit, relax. You know, a lot of people like my place when they come in. You know, they can relax. You know, so it's just come in, relax, turn on some music, and just and that's a safety feeling. Absolutely. You know, that's a feeling. That's a secure feeling, and that's what it home is: security, safe,
Yeah.
And that is what happens.
Absolutely.
Secure, safe place where you can just be yourself.
So
Freedom to be yourself.
thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, I think we heard a lot of really common themes going around the room, like safety and security, but also being able to be in place with your neighbors, in diversity and sharing resources and being free to be yourself, these non-judgmental spaces. It's so important. Yeah, I think this model of social housing is so compelling because of it really reimagines this idea of what affordable housing can be by bringing people together of different income levels, by bringing people together who love to cook, who don't love to cook, who want to start a community garden, who want to do communal childcare, whatever it is. But yeah, I really appreciate hearing all of your visions of what housing. Yeah, Susan.
Okay, I don't know if we're wrapping it up, but I wanted to add one more thing.
Go for it.
When I was canvassing, I have a note here about an individual that came up to us, asked, ready to sign the initiative, and his story was compelling. He works for Apple in retail, and his income, his rent is 50% of his income. And what I want to say is that the look on his face was of fear, agitated, emotionally upset. And what I say is that if we really want to improve the community of Seattle, we need to address stability in our housing. And he was very enthusiastic to sign the social housing initiative. But I also won't forget his story that even though he is considered affluent for working for Apple, that he still was suffering from this feeling that he just didn't have enough.
Absolutely. That actually really is a nice segue to the next question. And Daryl, I apologize. This one I'm focusing on the signature gatherers for, but feel free to chime in if you do have something to add. But the three of you all spent time collecting signatures for I-135. And I'm really curious to hear about what that experience was like. So what was it like to collect signatures?
Can I go with that bathroom or the bathroom?
I think this one is locked,
Okay.
unfortunately. So we just, yeah, but we definitely want to hear from you when you get back. So yeah, so Carl, maybe we'll start with you.
Excuse me, Camilla. Excuse me, Camilla. I'm having kind of like a difficult time hearing Carl and Crystal. I know y'all got the mask on. You're trying to keep social distance. So if you can, could you guys like speak up a little bit? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for saying something, Daryl. Yeah, Carl, really project. Do you want to scoot a little closer to the table as well?
I mean, it's okay to take it off.
I think we have to keep on our masks, but maybe scoot a little bit closer. This is actually the microphone, I believe.
I know everyone's trying to keep safe distance, so I understand and respect that. So, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Daryl. Yeah, so go ahead.
Sorry, question again? I'm sorry.
What was signature collecting like? And what kind of conversations did you have when you were out there collecting signatures?
Lots of good conversation. And compared to other gathering, I didn't really argue to anybody too much or anything compared to other kind of different kind of initiative. And lots of people like it, and lots of people not from Seattle, they wish they are Seattle residents, so they can sign it. And it's, yeah, I also learn from the people too. And sometimes the question I can answer, and I ask Tiffany or Jacob, and I educate myself. And yeah, I don't know what else to say, but the people like this initiative a lot, and just for me, it's easy to get signature. And Yeah, it's not. I don't need to put much effort, just people's time if they read it. You know. Well, I'm still learning myself too. So, and I'm not good at explaining stuff, so I just usually give some kind of bio or some information, or sometimes just contact info.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. What location did you find was best for collecting signatures?
I'm lazy. I don't go too far, so I usually gather around the Capitol Hill.
Yeah.
But and lots of people already know about or hear about the initiative, so kind of they are looking for us to sign, especially Capitol Hill, and I guess the people through the social media they know already. So yes, I don't need to talk too much. They just walk up to me and just sign it. So it's for me very easy.
Yeah. So Susan, you already shared one of
Yeah,
the stories
one
that you
story.
had, but want to tell a little bit more about your experience? Was
Well-
it your first time gathering signatures?
For this initiative, yes.
Cool.
Yes,
Okay.
I did it every Saturday for about 4 weeks. And my second reaction, besides that individual that was suffering from all 50% of his income going towards rent, was that the interaction that I had with people was the idea that the United States, they were intrigued by the creativity of the social housing plan, and they were interested in the fact that in other countries they had it, and so we had kind of a consensus among people signing the initiative that the United States needs to be more open to social housing. Things where it's housing that's not for profit, but they also, my people that signed it were interested in the building being maintained with the profit that it generates, that they were interested in the fact that the building will be maintained from the profits for decades to come, so that it wasn't something that would change over in 20 years, that they would become unstable.
Mm-hmm.
And so they really liked the longevity of the plan.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Definitely sort of a sustainable model.
Right,
that'll be
right.
there
And
for
then when
many people. Yeah.
when I explained that it was already in other countries, they were like, huh. Like it opened up this whole idea that, well, we do have answers. We do have a system that could be very, very positive for our community.
That's fantastic. Yeah. So Crystal, we did have a request for us to speak up, and this is the speaker, just so you know. So if you can try to speak loudly, but yeah, what was your experience signature collecting? I know you're more experienced.
It was fun.
Okay.
You know, this is perhaps one of the easiest ones I've gotten signatures on. It was really easy. I very seldom did I had to explain anything to them. I just simply said it's for housing backed by real change, and they said okay. They signed it. They were getting really discussions of what it was. And very, you know, my discussions were basically people told me they needed a cheaper place to stay, and I tell them, well, you could try wide right? And so we never really got into discussion about the initiative. They're like, well, okay, they read it. They said, oh, this is fantastic. And the places that and that was basically over in West Seattle PCC or the Ballard PCC. And those two stories, we never really got into long conversations about the initiative. And so, I found that I've gotten a little more confident. So so I don't have to sing as much. And I'm not much. Other signatures, I don't want to sing. I just want to say minimum. I say it the right way so you come on. It's not okay. But you know, it's a good one because it's something that people really know that we need. And they're like, housing, yes, I'll give you some cheaper housing. Housing, yes, my rent is too high. Housing, yes. Housing, yes. Housing, yes. So it was it's a good thing. And I enjoy doing it. I got back into the groove. It's been a couple of years since I've gathered signatures, so I finally kicked into gear. You know, and I like getting 20 signatures an hour. You know, I do. I like getting 20 an hour, right? So I kicked into gear, and the 20 started rolling in. So it's a good one. Too bad there's not a Walmart here in the city.
Is that a good place?
Yeah, it is. It's a good place to get signatures because
Okay.
there's so many people coming in.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
You know, it's a really good place. The Renton Walmart's good for the first month of a campaign, but after a while, people see you there, they come inside.
Yeah.
Just to help, because they know you're trying to make money. You say, oh, but yeah, they're good stores. And they're pretty much one of the only stores that allow signature gatherers to go to because we make such a bad mix. But yeah, I didn't get into any real discussions about what the initiative was going to do or what it was really about. They asked me, where's the money going to come from? And how can I find cheaper housing? You know, that's what they asked me.
Exactly.
Yeah, I said, okay. And so I said, well, the money's going to come from somebody. The city give it to us, and maybe I can get another initiative going. So.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really interesting to hear that it sounds like none of you really had to dig into much to the details when you walk up to a Seattleite on the street and you say we need more housing. Most of us know what we're talking about, right? Yeah. They're like, yes, we need more housing, and the rent is too high.
In this city, yes, they sure do. We sure do know what type of yes, we do.
Yeah.
A lot of people want to sign. I mean, I had a lot of people who are not registered to vote even in the country, baby. Registered to vote in the country, so you can't sign it. Yeah, it's a good one.
All right. Well, yeah. Thank you all for gathering signatures. I know it's a huge lift, along with so many incredible volunteers. And yeah. So our next question, Carl, I would love to ask you specifically. You have a long history of experience with housing advocacy here at Real Change and beyond. And you've been with our advocacy team throughout this initiative process as the intern. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about SROs, single room occupancies, and how that makes Seattle more affordable.
Yeah, I stay in a SRO for lots of different places. I mean, shout out to Chinatown. After I was homeless, it was more like a hotel. So as single room occupancy, just you have a room and a shared toilet and shower. And the room was very small, but also the rent was cheap. I mean, not for the rent, it's a hotel, but they also rent by the week and month. And I think for the social house, I think for the for like me, that people don't mind sharing spaces, like a shower, toilet. I think it's, I mean, that you can even to build one, probably, I think you can cut that building cost because you don't need to make each room the toilet and shower and everything. And you can, I mean, for the people who don't care much about the size of the room, you can have more people in one place, the same setting. I mean, in the one building. Or, and in utility cost is can share. And, I mean, you have to kind of, and I don't know. But one more time question.
Yeah, I just wanted to hear a little bit about your experience with SROs and its impact on Seattle's affordability, or just that was really helpful, just learning a little bit about what they were. So.
And then the place I stayed, I mean, I was two different places. First, I was in more like a hotel kind of place, and the second time I was kind of like more like a apartment. Also SRO. But when I was in a hotel kind of place, everybody can, if I have money, they just can check in, or, you know, and that was a help for some people. And also, yeah, it's the price. I mean, the rent is cheap because it's small.
Mm-hmm.
So for the people who don't mind the size, or I think it's good. That then I was homeless, so now I had a lot of homeless people. I mean, for them probably to get the roof over their head, and I don't think they ask too much about the room condition. So I think, I mean, just like, I think you can build more cheaper, cost less, and you can build more. Yeah. I don't know.
That was great. Yeah, thank you for sharing about that. I really appreciate that. So I think we're gonna kick it back to Daryl to go first on this one. One of the things that we all have in common, in addition to being housing advocates, is also that you're all real change vendors selling the newspaper, and you've been part of this community for a long time. And I'm curious to hear how you think this model of social housing could benefit people like real change vendors. Daryl, you want to kick us off?
This can help real change vendors in various ways. One, it can help the vendor get ahead. It can give vendor, like the average vendor, a sense of hope if they're struggling with housing and they've been out selling the paper and they may be staying in a shelter or somewhere where it's not safe for them, or outside, or living in their car. And I say this with much respect. It can give them a sense of hope. Social housing is great, like I've said before, and I continue to say it. So it'll definitely give the vendor some motivation, hey, to go out and sell more papers. You know, because some vendors, you know, they feel like they're not as motivated for whatever reason. Obviously, I'm beyond motivated. I love selling the paper. You know, I love doing it. You know, I take the yeses, I take the nos. You know, I don't chase nos, but that's a different conversation. You know, but you know, I just think it's a it'd be a way. Social housing I-35 initiative is going to definitely help the vendors have a sense of hope. It's going to motivate vendors to sell more papers. It's going to help real change, you know, get real change out more so in the forefront. So definitely, I think the social housing is definitely going to benefit the vendors if they use it correctly and see it as an opportunity. You know what I'm saying? You can have opportunity in front of you, but it's still up to you, you know, to have the initiative and the motivation and the confidence within yourself, you know, to take advantage of it. You know, so I thank Real Change, you know, for creating this initiative. You know, Tiffany, Camilla, everybody, Ty, everybody, the volunteers, the vendors that helped out with the signing, Carl, Crystal, and the other lady. What's your name, ma'am? I'm sorry.
Susan?
Yes. What's your first name?
Susan.
Susan, thank you very much, you know, for all that you guys do. My apologies for not knowing your name. But anyway, I just think that this will definitely help the vendors in various ways, to where they can use it as an angle to where, like, I have some people ask me out in Eastern Washington. They say, okay, so what's Real Change? I always see you out here a lot. And I tell them, hey, you know, Real Change is a nonprofit based out of downtown Seattle, celebrating almost 30 plus years of providing solutions for the homeless and disenfranchised. So weekly paper that comes out every week on Wednesdays, normally $2. My name's Daryl. Also, by the way, we have something called social housing, because moving forward at this point, I'm assuming moving forward, correct me if I'm wrong, social housing will be more so in the social media, out in the media front, to where people are going to be talking about it. So vendors can use social housing as an angle. If they're not a salesperson, they can use the social housing initiative as an angle to sell the paper. That's one of the ways it can help. Now you're getting into my sales and marketing spiel. So
No, you could definitely teach a crash course on how to sell the paper for sure, Daryl.
yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Carl, how do you think social housing could support folks or could benefit folks like Real Change vendors?
You know, even the people that they do, like for the low income housing, they do have a low income housing, but they have all the waiting list. Even the disabled people, you know, just then you have more affordable housing, more, you know, quicker to move in. Also, even the people buying the paper, if you take less money they spend for the rent, and they got more extra money that they can use for, you know, buy the paper from us, or, you know. So it's, you know, even our customer, for customer, it will help. I mean, if their rent going down, they can spend more money on something else. So, and also, just like students say, you know, it's nice. I think it's nice to, you know, in this housing model, kind of forced to all the different class, not class, but people, you know, the different income people just usually don't talk to each other, have to live in one same space. And I think it's benefit both sides of people, I think. And also people get connection from the people, your neighbor or something. You might more opportunity, more. And you know, they usually have the stereotypes and misunderstanding each other. I think it's good for society to different. They can understand each other better. And financially, they help all kinds of people.
Yeah.
that will end up helping vendor too.
Definitely. Yeah, I think that is such a good point. Just sharing a space is going to really encourage folks to communicate, to talk to each other, especially right now in Seattle, seeing so much misunderstanding and so much bad rhetoric coming out around homelessness, and yeah, bringing people together in one housing. I can definitely see how that would encourage communication and community. Susan, what about you? Yeah.
Okay. I mentioned earlier about how real change vendors develop people skills when they do their job, and the people skills that they sharpen would be a great match for the social housing plan, because with people in the upper income, they would be able to have a great chemistry. And also, real change vendors have the opportunity to read the paper. And so we're more educated about the low income or the housing issues. And so I just feel the vendors are a great candidate for social housing because they're active in the community. They care about the poor and the homeless. And also they're self-motivated people usually. And like I said, we develop our people skills, and I think we would be great candidates for social housing. That's all.
Crystal, I know you were nodding along when Carl was talking. What do you think? Do you have a response to that question about how social housing could benefit people like real change vendors?
Housing takes the burden off your shoulders. It takes the stress off. So a burden will be lifted. The stress will be lifted. I know that what most people need is just a roof over their head. I know that my cousin was in one of the tiny houses, and she loved it. She said, "Shoot, I got to move." Okay, she loved it. So it's like, okay, I got a roof over my head.
Just remind her to speak up. I really want them to hear
It's
you.
like, okay, I got a roof over my head. Now I could stop stressing about all this other stuff and focus on getting myself together. Focus on getting a job. Focus on, if I have a job, focus on work. Focus on being able to go to school. Focus on getting a different job. Focus on the things that we all, what those of us who have housing focus on, or just sit up there and drink beer all day and not do anything. I mean, but it's security, and that is what housing will do for a lot of people. Just give them the security that they knew, so they can go out and then thrive and to live, and not just survive, and not have to worry about I got to get up in the morning because I'm in the shelter. 6 o'clock, be out the door and don't come back until whenever time they say come back. I got to carry all my gear with me. That's stressful. So the housing is for real change. Those of us who will be able to get into the housing, and I'm sure that all of us who do apply will be able to get into it. It's security. Security. So I'm going to shut my door. Lay on my phone, no furniture. Lay on the floor with sheets naked, but it's mine, right? And so that's what I think of security. I'm safe and secure. Ooh, roof over my head. Oh, thank heavens. Thank the Lord. Go to church on Sunday. Drink on night Saturday. Go to church on Sunday. But secure. Just being secure.
Yeah, you're so right. I mean, the anxiety burden, the trauma, the stress, the time-consuming nature of being unhoused.
And even if you have a place that you go to that's considered safe, it's still stressful because you don't know whenever somebody might find it. Somebody might come it. It's still equally stressful. It might be cold. It might be too hot. You know, where your safe place is. You know, and so for a lot of people when I talk to them, it's this insecurity. Yeah. It's insecurity. They'll be safe and secure. And that's important.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you for sharing that. So see how we're doing on time. I've got another one. I got just a couple more questions. I've heard a lot of reasons, a lot of answers to this question today, but I'm wondering if you can distill it down to the thing that got you the most excited about social housing. So when you first learned about this initiative or learned about these models around the country or this model that we're proposing and developing, what got you excited? What was it about social housing that made you want to get involved? Carol, you want to go ahead?
Yes, the one thing they got me really excited and very hopeful about the I-35 initiative was that people will be able to not only have access to housing but get approved, you know, for housing. And I would like to assume and believe that it'd be a different process as far as getting people approved for this housing. And that got me really excited, you know what I'm saying? Because like I said before, many times before, the current model that we in is outdated, it's very evil, it's very racist. So the social housing to me is a sense of hope for people who are just still living out on the street. And I say that with much respect, people who have no hope as far as housing, people who continue to be homeless. Social housing, I mean, it's definitely a bridge to, you know, to get people back into not only housing, but stable housing, safe housing, good quality housing, all that. So I'm very excited.
Yeah, awesome. I love that to hear that energy. Carl, what's the thing that got you excited about social housing?
No, we don't have an affordable housing exist, so to even a one building to start, you know, just give us a hope, you know, just create a affordable housing and it can possibly create more and you know, give us the opportunity to do it, you know. So I just you know, you know, we can create more affordable housing. Just hope. Right. This is one way to make more affordable housing. We don't need to rely on a man or a private market.
Yeah.
So it's even just the possibility. Yeah, we need a more affordable housing.
That's a good reason to get excited. I mean, independence from government and private developers to build affordable housing. Hell yeah, that's exactly what we need. Susan, what got you excited about social housing?
Well, I've said a lot of me about it already, yeah. But to add a few more things, what I learned was that the buildings themselves would be considered green, which means that they're more insulated, and so they're built smart. And then also the labor will be union labor. And I really like that idea. I really like pulling the community together as they're building these social housing to have union labor. And then also the idea that I didn't know this, but apparently with government housing, sometimes it goes back to private ownership and then it changes. And I learned from social housing that it's more permanent, that there isn't a chance for it to become private, that it's self-sustaining, that it keeps, that it becomes profitable, the profits go towards maintaining the building for decades to come, so that the building will be taken care of. And then also after the profits grow from that point, that they continue to build more social housing. So it's a growing entity. And that made me feel just wonderful. It was just like, yes. And then I said this before, but Vienna, Austria, 60% of their housing is social housing. We know that it can happen, and it's actually happening right now. So that made me excited.
It just works.
Yeah.
It just works.
It's a great idea. It's very creative, very positive. And also it gets me excited. I did not know until this project that there was the idea of building housing with multiple income. And that got me really excited too, because I think that that solves a lot. Sometimes when I drive through Bellevue, even the Bellevue is higher income generally. And I think this applies, but something that I noticed was that the buses would drive by and on their placard, they would say, make sure you have the doctor who's in the top 10. That to me was stressful. And I thought, why do we stress each other out so much? We should understand that, be happy that you have a home. And if we could build our community with different levels together, the diversity solves itself. It calms each other's down. And so I really am an advocate for not having huge masses of people all in the same price bracket. It's stressful.
Yeah, that's such an interesting anecdote. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Crystal, what about you?
I have housing. On top of housing, I have Section 8 in the housing building. It's in the city. It is very necessary. As I walk down and I see all the homeless people out there on the streets, I see so many of us. It's something that needs to be initiative. I like it. Said we need to do something. Something has to get done in the city. Something needs to be done in the community. And there's too much money in the city for the city to be talking about. We got homeless people. People can't go hungry in the city. So why are they going? There is no reason for anybody to be go hungry in Seattle. None whatsoever. So why are there homeless in the city? That makes no sense to me. So I'm for it. I'm all for it. I'm down for it. I'm both for it.
That's great. Well, thank you so much. So we're now getting towards the end of our time, and I just want to take a moment for closing thoughts from everyone. And I specific question. Imagine a with and signing I-135 or voting initiative 135. Someone who's not sure yet, they haven't made up their mind. What would you do to get them to enter vote? Daryl, you want to?
Would you mind repeating the question because you was cutting out? I'm sorry.
So for someone who's on the fence and they are not sure how they're going to vote or if they're going to sign for the initiative, what would you tell this person to get them on board?
Oh, yes. But listen, due to the time and climate that we're in, it's like I give them this analogy real quick. If I was at the polls with them and they were like right there at the ballot sheet, I said, listen, imagine the most beautiful table in your home. Your favorite table that was given to you by your grandmother or a dear relative of yours. If one of the tables is damaged, what are you going to do about it? You'll get it fixed, right? And nobody will stop you from doing it, right? Because the longer you let that damaged leg go on the table's gonna get bad, no matter how good it looks on the top. A table's only as good as its legs. A table's only as good as its legs that it stands on. A nation is only judged by the way that it treats the less fortunate. A nation is only as good as it treats its less fortunate. So them signing the I-35, the Sign I-35 initiative is a no-brainer because it's going to benefit all of us. It's going to benefit you. It's going to benefit you and your family. Because it's a no-brainer. It's going to get people housed. It's going to get people off the street. It's going to be affordable. It's going to help the economy. Because the more at peace people are as far as that housing, the more they're able to do other things, such as get involved in other positive things as far as helping others. So from an ecology standpoint of view, from a harmony standpoint of view, the Sign I-35 is a no-brainer.
Yeah, that is powerful. I think you convinced that person to sign.
Did I convince them? You think I?
Hell yes, I think you convinced them.
Thank you.
Carl, what would you say to get someone to sign on to the initiative, or for someone who wasn't sure, what would you tell them about I-135?
But just trust me, it will help you, and even it will help the community, help the it will help lots of people, including the person. But I don't know how to make the person trust me, but just always have a person that who will help you, and even you don't believe, it will help lots of people. So we sign.
For sure. Susan, you collected many signatures. What was your selling point?
Well, actually, I was just going to say, when they're on the fence,
yeah,
what I would be emphasizing is think about how social housing would be bringing stability to the community at large. And because there's several different ways it's stabilizing. One is we'll have less evictions, and so we'll have less people being funneled right to homelessness. The rent being more controlled is stabilizing. The fact that these buildings will be planned for the long term, so that it's 10, 20, 30 years from now, we'll still have social housing. And then the people will be encouraged to live in these buildings for a longer period of time. So having the same people in the same neighborhood over 10 or 20 years is stabilizing. So my point to someone who's on the fence is to understand that social housing is a housing initiative that brings stability to the community at large.
That's beautiful. Absolutely. Crystal, someone's on the fence.
Well, if I'm trying to get them to sign, I just said, just sign this signature, just needs to get it on the ballot. And that usually works. But also I said, I knew a friend, I knew this woman. I said, this is Thursday. She said, I knew it. She lived on top of the hill. She got sick. Couldn't work for a year, then she broke her leg. Couldn't work for 6 more months. She's living at the bottom of the hill. She had her mother because she'd be under the hill. She loves, I said, you can be like that woman. And so if she had social housing at the time, she wouldn't be struggling at the bottom of the hill. she'd still be living at the top of the hill, but paying less rent. And so, you know, I said 30% of your income, how much you paying for your rent? How much you paying for your rent? How much you paying for your rent? That's what I'd say.
It's really powerful.
Yeah, I did know this woman, man. I did know her. She got sick, and she broke her leg. But if it wasn't for her mom, she said, I didn't understand. She wasn't first, she said, for my mom. And my mom was for my mom was old. The way she said it, my mom was old, shit, she ain't working. But she said, thank you for me. Because she said, I'm basically homeless. I was with my mom. Like I said, she said, so that's the true story.
Well, thank you for sharing that story. It's heartbreaking and so common, and the cost of medical care in this country and the lack of safety nets to protect folks is completely shameful. And this type of social housing will prevent evictions, allow for a little safety net, allow for a little grace. Thank you for sharing. That was very powerful. So with just a few minutes left, I just want to thank Jacob Scheer, who organized this panel, our amazing advocacy team, Tiffany McCoy, Camille Gix, Matthew Mitnick, and all of the amazing volunteers who gathered signatures, worked tirelessly for House Our Neighbors. And of course, I want to thank the vendors who asked questions, who shared some questions with us today, and the vendors in this room and Daryl at home. Thank you so much, Crystal, Susan, Carl, Daryl. We really appreciated you sharing your expertise and your experiences. So if you want to learn more about Initiative 135, you can visit houseourneighbors.org to sign up, to make a donation, to get involved, volunteer, meet some of these panelists this evening. And as I mentioned at the top, Real Change is made possible by donors like you. Real Change hosts House Our Neighbors. And if you want to learn more about Real Change's work, please visit realchangenews.org. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Great job. Keep up the good work. Good to see everybody. Camilla, great job. Your questions were awesome. Thank you. God bless.
The vendors, yeah. See you, Daryl. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Susan, Crystal, Carl, thank you. Keep up the good work.